Here we are, all of us.
Here we are. Hello, hello, dear Lonneke. Thank
Yes,
you for having us.
thank you for being here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Book of Light. I'm Lonneke Kersten. I'm so happy to welcome the famous German physical medium Kai Muegge and Matthijs de Leng, medium from the Netherlands. Also, a warm welcome to our guests you see behind me. They are members of the Dutch energy-based Seance group, Terra Mystica. Matthijs, my husband Martin, and I were present on the last 3 seances this month in Beeldhoven. And dear Kai, before we start talking, I have a surprise for you and for the viewers too. I hope, of course. Totally unexpected for me, my husband, who is a well-known and respected scientist and researcher, made a report on the seances where we all were present. And you can find this report on mediumship.blog. Isn't that nice?
Wonderful. That's
Right,
really
yes.
very much appreciated. Thank you.
I'm very happy that you can appreciate it, because I appreciate it also very much. And I, as I said, I would never expected he would do this. So it made a big impression on him, Kai. It's wonderful seances that you shared.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I like to hear that, of course, very much.
Yeah, of course, it's the truth. It was wonderful. And Matthijs, you were there too. And you knew already seances with Kai, didn't you, Matthijs?
Yes, this the last 3 sessions with were my 7th, 8th, and 9th with you. So yeah, I enjoyed it very much.
Yes, you're a lucky guy.
Mm.
I think so. And the intent to speak today together is for us to shine a different light on conversation about physical mediumship. Because the intent to speak about what happens energetically during the seances is worthwhile, I believe, and not so much known in the Netherlands. And Matthijs, I'm so happy that you're here too, because you will help me also with my English words, because I'm not so good in my English. So again, Kai, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
We would like to have more a kind of conversation than an interview. So please feel free, Kai, to ask things back to us, or give a replic if you like, or say as feel free to speak. And
of course, I will. I like that very much, to be dynamic and spontaneous.
And Matthijs too, of course.
Yes.
Shall I start with the first question to you? What does physical mediumship mean to you, Kai? Because I know there are different points of view about the same subject.
Physical mediumship means that we do not reach out with our minds into the realms of the spirit world, but that we create the conditions for some kind of a portal that somehow, how it exactly works, we do not know, but we know quite well the conditions in which it works. We create a portal that the entities that are seemingly existing there are enabled to constitute, to materialize, to appear in our 3-dimensional space, in different degrees, of course, but they are palpable, they are recognizable, perceivable. It's not a question, it's an objective thing that is going on. And if we look correctly at it, we find out that it is an ancient tradition, that the human being was always communicating with the spirit world that way as well.
It's true. Do you mean also, I must think now about the shamanic way of contacting spirit world and the loved ones. You also mean this?
Yes, absolutely. The shamans and the medicine men are a classical society or ceremonial background environment in which the spirits do become palpable as well. And I have visited quite a lot of specifically Lakota based rituals and ceremonies, and they are more or less, from the conditions to the energetic outcomes, the same what we are doing in the Western seance room.
Only give it different etiquettes, maybe.
Absolutely. The Indians, of course, do not like very much that you call it seance, what they are doing. They are calling it a ceremony. And there is another very, very important difference, a very important difference. In the indigenous cultures and environments, the ceremonies with the spirits are always only done for healing. But that is so because in these societies, spirit is unquestioned. And because in our society, spirit is very much questioned, doubted, the spirits have a demonstrational aspect in their coming and have to prove and show that you are not dealing with a kind of figment of the subconscious of the medium, or fraud, or a circus, or whatnot. So this demonstrational aspect very much discerns the Western seance from the indigenous forms of ceremony.
Yes, that's very clear. But why are there so many different points of understanding about physical mediumship, do you think? Or maybe you want to answer also this?
Yeah, are they? Are there so many? I mean, that the spirits appear in our space, materialization of spirit matter, you know, the materialization of the mysterious, the materialization of the unseen is accompanying us humans from the start. And this is what happens here. And I actually do not know any other description than the one that I have given, but please illuminate me.
Oh, who am I to illuminate you? But by example, maybe the question could be different. The understanding of physical mediumship and how it has to work for our Western standards, or maybe say a little bit English standards, are a different approach.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yes. That is true.
What I'm trying to say. What is that about? Can you tell me about it? Because these different point of views not bringing us together, isn't it?
For me, I am totally irritated by the fact that they are seemingly separate us. I do not see, because what is really behind is that we have two traditions of approach. And the one approach comes from a society that made out of that esoteric wave that started 1850, this esoteric wave of of spiritual engagement of the human being, they made a religion out of it. And the other culture did that not. And maybe, I don't know, what they are actually, are they believing we are not approaching it with enough respect, maybe?
Never hear it from me. But who are they? Is this English approach, if I say this so, or is it the Dutch?
Yes.
Well, what kind of what is the difference? Where did the difference come from?
Yes. Of course, I would like to have Matthias' opinion as well, but let me quickly answer on this. These different approaches come from the fact that the one approach, the one side, basically connects with their religious approach the fact that they do only value a mediumistic engagement or effort when it is for proof of survival. And they do even forbid people to work in another mediumistic way or in form, but to always and only to give proof for survival. I consider that very, very difficult. Proof. Do they refer to a societally accepted proof that an afterlife exists, and that shall be proven with something where the humankind is part of? We all know how often the humans do fail. So we have, on the one hand side, the human being in that scheme, and then the human being is applying something like trance, an altered state of consciousness. And what is coming through that shall become proof for society, for anything or for something. Only those who are persuaded already that the afterlife exists will be basically persuaded by mediumistic efforts, which seem to be proof of survival. So the Germans always did consider that very, very difficult because of these elements which are part of it. Maybe this is part of the conflict. I mean, for us, this is a headline as well, of course, but we do not put it solely in the middle. Our entities, our spirit communicators, they discuss this as well. But, who wants to have this proof for survival? Mm-hmm. Is it really about those who are in the afterlife? Or is it more for the ego to silence down this enormous fear that is living within us? Because we have still not come to terms with our biological circle, and we cannot stand the thought that one day this earthly life has ended. So we search so badly and hardly for something that tells us death will not happen for you because it's an illusion. More or less, the life in the afterlife is something that is very quite much like the earthly life. And our spirits say, they do not value that, but they say, this question is basically for the ego. And our spirits come with a little more global approaches, or let's say more common approaches that concern the environment and how we live, and what went wrong in the way we lived. And they moreover inform us about a multidimensional interconnection of the human being, for example, with the spirits we communicate with, and how very much these forms of lives are clinged together, are entangled, and how very much we are responsible with all the things we are doing and not doing, not only for us and for our environments, but for their environments as well. But this goes a little bit too far at that point, I believe. Please, Matthijs, what is your opinion in that regards?
Well, well, I think it's a very nice topic to talk about. Let me say this first, that I like the English approach very, very much, because of the way they want to have a thorough look at it, and the investigation of that, what we call mediumship. And if I look at the Dutch way that mediumship is now being done, then it sure needs some more of the British, I say that, approach, so that people can find certainty, and can find not only the proof that there is a life after death, but the proof that they can connect to spirit themselves. If I look at another aspect, which I think is far more interesting, what you said about the tradition within the Native Americans, and what they did, then you can see that those people there are so much more in harmony with nature, and with and with the spirit around them, that they don't need the proof. And I guess that while we want you, if we are having a session, we want you to be controlled. We want two people holding you constantly, just in a way presenting our fear, that we being afraid that we are being fraud upon, and that it's fraudulent what we see, or it's triggery, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And if you look at that, then you think, okay, that's an image of fear, because if you need that kind of confirmation so much, no, doesn't matter what you believe, you want to obey the fear. And I think that the Native Americans, they didn't have any thought about it. They didn't have the control. They just had a ceremony, and they had their own conviction about life after death. And it's not any more than mediumship does not serve the purpose of providing proof of life after death, but more like helping out people spiritually grow. And it's more advanced than what we are doing now. You know, it's just like a traffic light. Say you're walking upon the street, and you see the traffic light from red going to green, and then you can start, okay, it's now green. But the fact is, you have to start walking then. And what we do is, right now, if we see physical mediumship, we want to keep look at the green bit, the green light, hold the medium, and just say, this is it, this is it, this is it. And then we forget to walk. we forget the purpose, the real purpose of mediumship. And it's not to facilitate a proof of life after death. It's to facilitate spiritual growth.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the point. And I don't care so much for English or German or for me it's just mediumship. And I think it would be best to be able to work in an environment without the controls needed, just because we all believe and we know and we understand how mediumship works, and we understand that we're there for a greater purpose than to control the medium. Well,
yes, absolutely. You say it. Mediumship is for spiritual growth, but we need to be honest here. Europe is reigned by a very strict English hand. All the schools which are connected to Stansted, and all the pupils and all the mediums which are in these 2 or 3 big organizations there, they are even giving out papers in the end that you are not allowed to channel, let's say, aliens. Yeah, it's a possibility out there. And I have worked with fantastic mediums that channeled baffling information from alleged or claimed aliens. So I believe that you, because you are a holistical free thinker, that excuse me, my mobile started suddenly to speak while that. But the reality is that the English institutionalized spiritualism is very dogmatically strict and try to oppose that on their pupils.
Well, I believe that's true. If there are certain rules they apply, and they want to see it worked following those rules, and I can understand that. And of course, I think it's a personal choice people need to make if they want to abide by those rules, or that they want to have a free mind and open up for everything. It's just.
Yes.
I think it's a personal responsibility, which is one of the basic principle of the spiritualism in England. But
the sad thing is they cannot choose freely.
If
they could choose freely, that would be right what you say. But they are not allowed anymore to work in their premises when they are publicly discussing.
No, that's true. But
or something like
no,
that.
but it's true. But there's also a point of in England we have witchcraft acts. The law is still present there with such an idea of what is allowed and what isn't allowed. So there is some influence from the government about what's happening here. And personally, I think I'm not the person to talk about the English way, because I'm also Dutch, and I prefer to be a free thinker and
Yes.
to be open to anything. But it has to
Absolutely.
make sense to me.
Yes.
And
in my case, it is so that our approach was always attacked by English mediums,
Yes.
and or English writers, bloggers, and so forth. Yes, please.
I interrupt you a little bit. I'm a little bit confused. If I'm looking at an English mediumship, for me, it's about mental mediumship. And I think there are 2 totally different ways of mediumship. So if we're doing, by example, demonstration for mental mediumship, then it is about evaluating the information that you give to your sitters or to the people who are in who the reading is given to. And this is important, because why should you accept a big message from someone in the spirit world who is truly there and still alive and wants to pass something on? Physical mediumship is, for me, is what I understand from it, a total different subject in mediumship. Maybe we cannot compare them together, and maybe they exist next to each other. Or do you think I'm mistaken?
I can tell you that the English understanding of physical mediumship is that physical mediumship is only justified when a reunion with loved ones stands at the end, only if you achieve to materialize to a certain degree a form of reunion. And again, it's the question of a proof that comes here. This is what they demanded from modern physical mediumship, at least, referring to the old days, from which they claimed that in the old days, physical mediumship always was mainly the materialization of loved ones and the reunion of loved ones and spirit in lighted conditions. That is, of course, false. And I do not know exactly where these legions were coming from, or who is still promoting them so heavily. But this is basically the English demand, within the mediumistic scene. Physical mediumship had to fight a lot to become accepted.
Always. And of course, because it's a different approach, isn't it? About demonstrating or showing mediumship in a group. It's totally different if you talk about physical mediumship or mental mediumship. So these are two wonderful possibilities, but totally different. And I've got a feeling that it are truly, that they hardly even can listen to each other, because they accept only their own kind of point of view. And there are more kinds of point of view and more ways of showing mediumship, like this marvelous way of physical mediumship.
And yes, and I would like to underline that I very much appreciate mental mediumship and what good mental mediums are ready to produce, or ready to achieve, better said. And I do not like to sound as if I am rejecting mental mediumship or so. What I am rejecting is the dogma, and that in the environment of the practice of mental mediumship, these dogmas are put upon the people. This is what I'm criticizing, yes, not the approach.
And can you say that and I don't say that it's so, but can you say that for physical mediumship, you need to be more open-minded?
Absolutely, they should, because as I said, the encounter with the occult, and occult basically is understood as what we do not understand. Actually, occult means that what comes from darkness, when we correctly translate it, and that the unseen is materializing in front of us, happened from the first day of existence. And even the ceremonial forms we have talked about. Anthropologists claim that they are partly as old as the Neanderthal, but at least 20,000 years old. So it is an ancient tradition, and the mental mediumship environment. I mean, I know how it works. You know what is interesting? In England, the mediums scene was always coming from the working class. The investigators were coming from the bourgeoisie, you know, but most of the mediums were coming from the working class. And you know what? The medium that is working at the end of the street is taking the butter from the bread of my children. And that's why within why ever, but everybody knows that, and everybody is talking about that behind the curtain, so to speak, that there is a strong competitive momentum in approaching the whole mediumistical scene. And I could not explain otherwise why, for example, Stansted was negating in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, they were publicly claiming and teaching their students that physical mediumship is not anymore existing, that it was more or less a phenomenon between 1850 and 1930, even though at these times amazing physical mediums were working, like Leslie Flint. The Noah's Ark Home Circle Association had just created huge connections among experimental physical circles in the UK, and with the Noah's Ark Society, a new era of publicly working, very interesting physical mediums were just coming up, with Stuart Alexander, Colin Fry, David Thompson, and some more, which are not so very well known. So what were the reasons that Stansted Hall, as an educational body, has claimed for so many years that is not there, that is not existing?
But was this also in the time of Gordon Higginson? Because he was quite a renowned physical medium as well.
Oh yes, that's true. When did he die? When did Gordon Higginson die? In this sixth.
I thought late. Yeah, well, I don't know. So much.
People who saw beautiful materializations with Gordon Higginson.
Oh yes, yeah, you're right.
And amazing ones. And this wonderful man medium shared not only the mental medium but also the physical medium. So there are some roots also there. So maybe it is time to listen to each other, towards each other truly, and not stand the only differences that we are thinking or the dogma stands between it. Because I truly believe then there is growth among mediumship. Because if you are already blocked and you don't listen to each other because it's not the way you were taught or told, then you shut out all the knowledge that is already here. And Kai, if I may say, you sit from your 15 year, you was 15 years old when you sat in your first seance. You have a knowledge with you that I don't know which medium from your age and at this moment has. So we can learn from you. And
that is true. And I also would propose that we make a line here, and from now on, let's look into a future where we can share and explore all these things, and let's forget all these differences which coming from a different societal approach. Yes. And I am immediately with you to let's draw this line. We do not need to talk anymore about why they were doing or behaving that way or another, and let's start into a rich future for us all in that regards.
Absolutely, absolutely, because we're all serving the light in different ways.
Indeed.
And yes, so let us, our ego, not stand between that, because it starts with love and it ends with love, isn't it? All the work that we do.
Yes, and that's exactly the point with what I said just a moment ago. That
yes,
and what you also related to, it's a fear of death, and that's fear.
Yes.
And it's the opposite of love. So you need to understand yourself and to be able to understand this inside of you, that if you bring the light and if you bring the love, then you need to address your inner truth, which is so important. And then you will see that British mediumship or German mediumship, as long as it is honest and it's pure, it's mediumship, and that's, I think, what we are looking for.
Of course. And I fully can understand that motive, of course. And absolutely no question. I only asked why. Yes, we did not want to talk anymore about it, but why were they so strictly rejecting everything else? I mean, that's wonderful to explore the space of the afterlife, the near death, the after death, what we know already, that's amazing. And what we can achieve through mediumship is amazing. But it is poisoned, yes, when it is so exercised competitively.
Absolutely.
And when people but I'm ready to forget that all.
I'm so happy to hear that. And I was already convinced that you have that state of mind and the way and the love where you express all your marvelous contacts and phenomena during the seance. It speaks for itself. And for me, I learned that it's a lot about energies. And if the energies come from aliens or the energy comes from other dimensions, it's about what is shared with us. And you gave, by example, a lot of proof. How much do you want? The people who are not accepting that because of the fear, as Matthijs spoke about in you, I asked my friends in spirit, what is that reason? And they said to me, it's because they're not ready yet. And we need to continue. And this is truly what they say. We need to continue and to step over this. When they're not ready, the light will come in their lives later on, and then they will realize. But don't let us be settled on a side because of this just human ego energies who have to deal with these fears of not understanding.
Of course.
But this, if I may change the subject a little bit, this is creating a question. Kai, are you ever afraid? Are you ever afraid of your own mediumship and how it will work with you and how it works with you?
Oh, of course. Very much.
You are.
Very much. Specifically, the deep trance work in which I am losing time, in which my body is doing things and I'm not aware of it. And then people do approach me and say, oh, this has happened, that has happened. I cannot actually take the responsibility for it. What is when the people believe it is fraud? I was not present. Yes, there are big fears connected with what is happening with my body in 2 hours when I'm not aware. And wow, that is still still heavy and difficult for me. And that's why I am so reliable on people who are at least willing to experimentally accept what we are presenting. I do not say that it is failless. Yes, we are all no robots. And this is another thing, how the society was dealing with mediums, and how they did throw them away because they were doing a mistake or something like that. And it was already that moral standards were asked or demanded from mediums, moral standards with which nobody else in society could have been could fulfill, specifically the scientists not, whose society is sometimes also quite difficult in regards bending data and so forth when they are trying to get publications and so forth. I have heard a lot of stories because our circle leader was a professor in one of the Germans' most sophisticated scientific bodies, and he was always describing this difference between the approach scientists or the demands scientists had to mediums or asked mediums of, and how the scientific day by day thing worked behind the curtain. So as I said, nobody is a robot. And when you are in a difficult situation, I'm doing that for 30 years, and there are difficult situations. You wake up too early out of the trance or whatnot. Don't tell me that a medium that is working for 30 years has not tried to help him or herself out of a difficult situation. Nobody has ever admitted to this. But I can tell you, of course, it is happening in mental mediumship, and it is happening in physical mediumship as well. But it is, of course, not the basis of it. These are very rare exceptions.
Yes.
And we are doing...
Isn't it so that your sitters, when they are coming to your seances, need to understand it at first? If you come, if I go to the bakery, I want to have my bread, yes? If I go to a seance, if it's possible, and if the spirit is ready, and if you are ready, and if the circumstances are there, that it's possible to experience something, then it must be enough, if it's not everything. And this is a way of gratitude to you and to spirit, not to expect the everything, you know?
Of course.
But this gives pressure on you, I believe, in a seance and on other mediums who needs to, it's not a performance, you know, it maybe looks like a performance, but it's not. It's because, for me, it is receiving from love the possibilities that are possible in that moment with that sitters on that time.
Absolutely.
And if there is nothing in that night, then people go home and it's, then it's so. And next time it will be better. Isn't that
because
shoot?
Yes, and because of the long time we are doing this, we have found a way that we are not anymore confronted with situations in which we believe we need to help out ourselves, because we work in a way in which we are always mirroring the energies of the group in a certain way. And that's why our seances are so widely varied, different, so widely different, because there is not one performance that is always shown to the people. There is an energy dynamic that is constituting itself under the aspect from the sitters and the mediums together. So this is, that has the other advantage that the seances are so different, and that not one seance is like the other.
Yes.
I can tell you. You can ask Julia next time, she knows that at best, not one seance is the same like the other.
Mm-hmm. And people, maybe it's also a question, how can people be enough aware about themselves and the world around them, as long as they believe that a lot of people think that they are their brain or their body? So, first of all, you need to discover that it's not so, isn't it? This is something to realize, because to understand our interaction and the mirroring from each other and from the nature around us, you have to have some understanding, maybe at first, about what consciousness is and how it works. I don't say that I have the wisdom about everything, but I have the feeling that I start to awaken a little bit in this matter. So, and of course, a lot of people are talking about, yes, the frequencies are going up and it goes faster and there is more knowledge we share by the media. That's true. But people need to open up also towards each other and be willing to listen to each other if there can be some step forward truly in the future. And I'm so happy that you are welcoming this and that
Yes.
is welcoming this, because this means grow. And the frequency goes up and we get a lot of possibilities in mediumship that maybe we never expected before. And we have experienced, everybody has to experience for themselves, of course, and to learn. It's the inner knowledge, isn't it? But to open up and to listen, to be willing to hear what others want to say, I would love that it would be more. And I would love to speak much more about all of these topics, and there's so many interesting things we can talk about, Kai and Matthijs, don't you think so? So, and we are
Absolutely.
waiting a long time. Maybe some of our sitters on the couch here from the Seance group Terra Mystica would have an answer for you, Kai. Would you mind if they have?
Yeah, of course.
And that
We very much appreciate.
And then we end our conversation, I think, for today. And I hope there will be a follow-up, because it's so interesting.
It is.
Certainly is, yes.
So I will turn my head around and look to some of the members of Terra Mystica. You see someone is stepping forward. I see. Please come here.
Okay. So, hello, Kai.
This is Henny. You have to be more.
Oh, hello. Nice to see you. Hello.
Hello, Annie.
And he also has been part of the last 2 of the 3 seances.
Yes.
In
Yes.
Yes, I'm still impressed, Kai.
Thank you.
Yes. You let us see a lot of things. And it's also, I think it's all about energy. Energy, what was materializing. And that was what wonders me. Yes, I found it wonderful. And also your wife was a very good leader. That's what I want to say.
Thank you.
It's, I think, or I feel it, it's not always mentioned. So I want to...
Absolutely. Thank you very much. She is an angel in that regards, because she is expressing maybe what I cannot so. All the people do not believe me, but Julia is so pure. She's so upright, and when you look into her eyes and into her smile, and she travels with me. She knows everything, and I like that very much, that Julia stands so very much at my side. Yes, and I mean, I love her, and I hope she loves me also a little bit.
Oh, it was shown so much in her way of coaching with you. It was lovely to get to know her a little bit. And of course, we have also questions, more questions. I will come up with more questions also about Julia, of course. So
Yeah,
please. Yeah, of course.
Talk more about the energies maybe that are also out there that we experience and so on. And for now, I hope that people will hear our call to share with each other and to be open with each other and not block ourselves and to think for yourself. Feel. Do you think so, Matthijs?
Definitely. Absolutely. It's, I guess, what we've seen with the Felix Circle in Holland this year and also last year. It's, I found it an honor, not to only to host it and to be able to be so close to it, but also to see the and then I like what Henny says, the materialization of spirit, and not only of spirit but primarily of the spirit thought, and how it could touch everyone if everyone just would allow it to happen.
Well
and
said.
it's a great honor just to be a part of it and to know that spirit surrounds you and is helping you living your life. And I think that what you've done for people is that you've made them realize that they are not alone, and that's I think it's a wonderful present to give to people.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the spirit team the same as you. I don't know why that was written in my life's plan, but I am proud, of course, what they are doing. Also, besides these difficulties, and you said it very rightly. It is also the spirit thought that is materializing here, and that the spirit thought is ready to touch everybody. You only need to be ready. Yes, you only need to be ready.
Yes, and it's so easy to be ready, and it's what Lonneke just said about gaining some consciousness. But in fact, the only thing you have to do is just look and allow the light to shine upon your face. That's the only thing you need to do. There's nothing else.
Light shines on your face, Kai, not only through those yellow glasses. You have such a beautiful light around you, and we love that. And to see that, and also the kindness and the empathy you have towards people. It starts always feeling, and then to experience also such a wonderful things. And these phenomena, we did not spoke to it this time about them, because I think this inner knowledge to share with each other is maybe more important at this moment. And I thank you so much, Kai, and Matthijs. I thank you also very much, and natuurlijk Henny and all the others here who are sharing our energy in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
The spirit world, the love for them is amazing that we have and that is there. And from this, I want to say namaste to you all. Thank you so much.
Namaste.
And Julia,
thank you.
Also to Julia, namaste.
Of course, I will forward it to her. Thank you so much for having us and for that talk.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Special thanks to Matthijs again, and special thank to you all, of course, as well. So good night, everybody.
Good night. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.